That felt like a must-win game, right? I can't remember the last time I felt that desperate for a win this early in the season, and we got it. We got it. Let's talk about the chef first, because seeing as though how many of y'all were thirsty to run back that six-man comment at me, I think I realized that I didn't deliver the message properly. And you have to understand, before I do these YouTube videos, I do my patron breakdown. And sometimes I speak and operate with the assumption of like, you saw that too. And I should realize a lot of you didn't. And so it kind of gets lost. But my point was that 5 or 6 years ago, if you said, hey, when Steph's 37, he's going to be a microwave six-man like Lou Will. He's going to come in, he's going to close the game out and light it up. Most people would be like, yeah, that sounds about right. You know, like 37 years old. Okay, fine. The point was our expectations are too high for Steph, right? He continues to defy the odds, and his greatness and his longevity have people thinking like he's going to carry right now. Like he's going to, and that was the point. And I put a little sauce on it, right? Because it was like, I'm frustrated with how he was playing. And it wasn't like, hey, the Warriors should make him a six-man. Clearly they're not going to do that, right? But if you look at his new rotation pattern, they're trying to find a way to limit his minutes in his load so he can close games out like he did last night. Now, that being said, I think most of us understood like this game was coming. Regardless of my comments or whatever that was, when he off that Memphis game, you were like, oh, Steph's going to have a big game against Minnesota. And now Randall and Gobert certainly helped that, right? But just his ability to have the juice at the end of games, and how do you sustain that, right? They're subbing him out like 4 minutes into the game, right? Like 4 or 5 minutes into the game, he's sitting. And so they're trying to find a way to do that. But yeah, if he goes if he goes on another one of these barrages over the next couple of weeks where it's like, oh, my MVP Steph is back, I will sit here and humbly apologize for the six-man comment, but not just after this one. And that wasn't the point anyway. But I'll do a better job delivering the message. So Steph closes them out. What do you have, like 11 straight points? Julius Randle is a mess in that pick and roll defense. He's just like, hey, you get him. I pick him up. Pick him up. Like that was nuts. But we got a lot to cover in this one. And again, the breakdown, I'll leave that in the comments. But it's a really good one. I think the story is the sophomores, right? Trace Jackson Davis, one of the best games of his career. And then Pods all of a sudden showing some signs of life. The haters ain't going to like that, right? Pods is making shots. You see how smooth that release is on his three right now? He slowed it down a little bit, and it's going down, right? He's starting to knock it down. No Draymond Green, right? And would he have a sore ankle? There's always various reasons for why different times and different things, but without Draymond's voice on the floor and on the court, I think Draymond sometimes, as much as we need his leadership and his vocal leadership, sometimes it sucks the air out of the room, right? And it doesn't leave any room for someone else to be that emotional guy. And Trace, have you ever seen Trace that emotional, that vocal, that physical? I love Trace the Enforcer, man, right? And so that was out of the gate. The rebounding, Trace blocks shots, so he's never going to probably rebound the way you'd want him to because he's hunting blocks. But I think that's a good little metric for him, is his energy level and his assertiveness. And you heard the telecast say, hey, Steve said Trace is our best finisher. And I think we're all sitting at home like really? That's all we've been complaining about, is how poorly he's finished. And so Steve clearly playing the Jedi mind trick, right? Essentially saying, yeah, Trace, you're our best finisher. Just saying, basically, go to the rim with velocity, with force. And you saw that. You saw the rebounding defensively. Now in that second half, they started to knock threes down, and he and Wiggins were having some trouble navigating that high pick and roll. Gobert's sneaky on the roll, but they wanted to ice it, and then Ant was rejecting the screen. And so that's going to be tough regardless. But all in all, one of Trace's biggest performances in Pods, that's back-to-back games where the shot's starting to fall, and you're seeing when it seems like almost like he's just been nudged to his rightful role right now at his age. And then Schroeder, man. Have you seen Schroeder with the young player huddles? He's gathering up Kuminga, Pods, Trace. He's talking. He's a natural leader. And if you watch, when Pods had that putback, when Pods had that floater, Schroeder is his biggest cheerleader on the bench. So I like the connection between the young guys and maybe a different voice, right? It's Steph and Draymond and Steve. It's hard maybe at times to hear their voice all the time, these legends that where you feel no right to push back, no right to say anything, and any voice can wear thin. But Schroeder, a new voice, a guy unafraid to call it how it is, and it looks like he's putting the battery in the young guys' back. He's charging them up. And you talk about Steph in cutting his minutes back, cutting his load back so he can close. If the two sophomores, if Trace and Pods can start to be who we thought they could be, that changes the equation, right? That will allow that. And then you combine that with Schroeder, who the numbers don't really do justice what he did last night. He had like maybe 9 points, a couple assists, but his ability our bigs are going to have to adjust, right? He's getting to places on the floor and making passes. There was a couple to Loon. Loon was like, whoa, like not used to getting that, right? But I think that he's going to collectively get us to the foul line more. And so down the stretch of games, we'll be in the bonus. You saw Nikhil picks up Steph in the backcourt there and just, reaching and pulling on him, boom, fouls, free throws, right? We were already in the bonus. So I think I'm really excited to see Schroeder's impact, not just from like a on the ball perspective, but a new voice in the locker room, particularly for the young guys. Before we get into this Kerr-Kuminga conversation here, Underdog, been a sponsor of the channel for a while. They're running bonuses. It's Sunday. It's football Sunday. But if you check, you're going to get tokens and bonuses and boosts almost every day of the week. Use the code Alchemy, and you can get up to $1,000 on your first deposit. But again, the bonuses, the specials, I'll have Christmas Day picks for you. I play it. I'm going to say I play it every day, but I play it a lot, right? And so it's a great way to support the channel, Underdog. The link will be in the description. Let's get to these Steve Kerr comments here.
You have Steph Curry on the team, you pass the ball, because you pass it 2 or 3 times, the defense is scrambling, all hell breaks loose. So it's a choice. We can either do that and win games, or we can shoot, a whole bunch of 15-foot contested shots in the middle of the shot clock and be a lousy NBA team. It's up to us, and we are hammering that point home with our team. Thank you.
I understand the big picture point of it. I don't really like the messaging, honestly. And I know we're all biased in our own ways. We all have our built-in fan stuff, right? I try to remain partial and objective to this Kerr versus the young guys stuff, meaning when the young guys are playing bad or when I see Kerr's point, I'm like, he's right. I had to pull him too. But there's other times where I got to push back at Steve. And I went through, again, there's a breakdown up right now of it. And I went through Kuminga's 3 of 11. And I think he had 2 grenades at the end of clock where it was like he had to take the shot, right? And he wasn't as efficient as you'd like him to be, but there was really only like 2 pull-up mid-ranger 17-footers where Gobert is like the one guy in the league that's going to be super tough. And I won't say one guy, but one of the few guys where it's like you probably don't want to take the midi over him, right? That he did take. But I just think that we already have this issue of them trying to defer to Steph too much, right? I get when Steph's hot, it's like, hello, find him, right? But what about the moments where you watch Steph off ball and he's hands on his knees and he's kind of like waving people off, and we have this conversation of like, we need Kuminga to be a scorer. We need another guy to go get a bucket, right? So Kuminga's hearing, hey, we're going to ride you now. Like it's your time. We need you to be that second scorer. But now you have this message of, hey, you can't be doing like, and I don't get me wrong. I know he is not this by any means yet, right? But would Kerr be saying that if DeMar DeRozan was on this roster? We just can't take tough 17-footers, right? He wouldn't be said. And so I don't like the way that they're handling this Kuminga situation right now. In and out. Draymond doesn't play and he still doesn't start, right? And it's just mixed messaging. And overall, yes, generally speaking, we need all the guys to understand where Steph's on the floor, when he's going to relocate and that type of stuff. But there's also moments in a basketball game where it's like, no, you have to break off of that. You have to break off that. It becomes too predictable. Personally, Kuminga's shown me enough that I'm all right with him taking 3 bad shots a game where you're like, I probably shouldn't have taken that one, right? But just to nurture his growth because we can see what he can be. So I don't like those comments from Kerr, man. I get the big picture concept of it, but to say that publicly it clouds the messaging even more to Kuminga because I don't think it was as bad as it was made out to be. He took 2 or 3 bad ones. I can live with it. He also did. What about that stretch to start the fourth where he got to the line twice in a row, right? So you applaud that. You're like, yeah, head down, get to the line. But then when it's not always, when he gets to the midi and it rattles out, now it's like, oh, I get it. There was one play where he forced it, but we can live with it as long as it's not too many times and it's not in the clutch. But all in all, just a super must-win game. What else am I forgetting? Is there anything else I wanted to cover? Oh man, I buried the lead. How dare I forget this? Holiday season, right? Who's going to Wiggins Island? Ant's going to Wiggins Island. Julius Randle's going to Wiggins Island. I thought low-key, Wiggins was our best player. Now, I'm being a little bit facetious. For those of you who are now, you're going to accuse me of disrespecting Steph and his 30 ball. But like Wiggins, bro, that was elite defense from the start. Schroeder is helping that defense, right? And so, yeah, man, I know we're still going to be talking trades here in these upcoming weeks, and it's just one game. But I think the context that matters is Minnesota was in the same spot we were in, and they were at home. They just got blasted by the Knicks. Towns return game, right? And so it wasn't like we caught them at a bad time and we were just super thirsty to get a win and desperate. Both teams were equally as desperate, sitting at the same spot in the standings. And so I think that matters, right? Got the Pacers at home Monday, where, if you can defend and keep them off the 3-point line, it's a matchup that I like. And then that Lakers Christmas Day game. What is it, 5 or 6 o'clock? I'm going to go live Christmas Day. I don't know if it'll be pregame or postgame, but you can expect that from me. But yeah, they need to pile it together. And to me, I said it in the breakdown, it's not necessarily that Steph needs to give us 30. Can Steph have the energy to close out the games and be the finisher that he needs to be? Never mind if he's starting. We know he's always going to start, right? And then he rests 3 minutes into the game. But the point is, we've got to preserve him at this stage in his career so he can finish out the games and close the games for us. And I think adding Schroeder and if we can get the boost from the sophomores, I think we're headed in the right direction. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.